Hey, Pontoon. Thank you for joining us. We are going to dive into another Taboo Tuesday. If you haven't checked out last week's, I urge you to go check it out. We talked about co-sleeping, bed sharing. We talked about when it was right for your family to move baby to their own room, their own crib. And it was really cool to see all these women with all do things differently, and yet we could all peacefully talk about it. And that's kind of our goal of the Pontoon is, there's no right or wrong way to parent. So we're going to do the same thing today, less about Taboo Tuesday and more about TMI Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about the postpartum physical and mental recovery. We were chatting before this and saying, everyone warns you about the actual labor and delivery, how hard that's going to be, but nobody warns you what goes on with your body afterwards. So let's dive right in.
Oof, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
How's everyone feeling? Have you guys, what's the word? Recover. Have you forgotten about all of that? It's like,
No.
You'll always
I'm getting PTSD.
Right?
Yeah. I definitely feel like, the last few weeks of pregnancy, I feel like I've forgotten about that, pain and turmoil, because it's you're so miserable and you're like, okay, get this baby out of me. And then here they are, and you get to hold this beautiful baby and you're like, okay, I can do this again. But not sure about the postpartum recovery if I've blocked that out of my mind.
I mean, I jump right into C-sections because I had 2 C-sections. The first one was unplanned. She was frank breech, so that means she was breech, but her legs were spread apart. So there was no safe way of her being delivered. So we went straight to C-section. And honestly, it was a relief because of all of that built up fear that people talk about giving birth. I didn't want to do it. So when she said C-section, I'm like, all right, you're just going to cut the baby out. No big deal, right?
Thinking you were getting the easy way out.
Right? It's supposed to be the easy way. It's certainly not the easy way out.
No.
I never had surgery before, so I had no clue what to expect. Just the part of anesthesia and going, under, because they only numb you from your chest down. You're awake the whole time. What other major surgery are you awake for? The process, the actual part of giving birth was, I didn't feel it. I didn't know what was going on. You felt some pressure and some movement, but you really don't know what's going on. But afterwards, I remember being in post-op and I still couldn't feel anything, and just the anxiety of not being able to move your feet, feel things, it was just beyond weird. And
Did you get shivers?
What's that?
Did you get shivers?
I had shivers, I had the vomiting, I had it all. And then once I got it back up to my room, I started getting feeling back. They were monitoring me for preeclampsia before birth. And so I was already swollen. And then when they pump you full of fluids, I was even more swollen. And my legs and feet were so swollen that it was so painful that they brought in these air socks that they try to compress some of the fluids out. And I think that even hurt more. So I was dealing with that and trying to be a new mom and figure out the whole breastfeeding stuff and all of that. So it was very overwhelming.
That's a really good point you make about, you was in the NICU and you're worrying about him, not worrying about yourself. And that's kind of one of the main reasons I wanted to talk about this subject, is because think about it, you have this baby and everyone's like, how's baby? How's baby? No one's asking, how is mom? And I specifically remember, and especially like you were saying, trying to figure out breastfeeding, I specifically remember missing a couple doses. I had a vaginal birth and a 3rd-degree tear. So I was doing the Motrin and Tylenol back and forth. and you had to do like every 4 hours. So I literally would set alarms and be like, okay, it's time for Motrin. Okay, it's time for, Tylenol, whatever. But there was a day when I just like missed 2 doses because I was so focused on like, okay, when's the last time Amelia ate? When's the last time? And I was in so much pain. And I remember calling my doctor, my OB, and just saying like, is it normal? Like, should I be in this much pain? And she was like, I know you're probably worrying about baby, but make sure to take care of yourself too. Yep. And it's so true. And I can't imagine you, Julie, like with a baby in the NICU, like, of course, you're just like laser focused on your baby, being okay and not taking care of yourself.
NICU though is those nurses know that mom needs to be on point.
Yeah.
So they help you remember.
They really, they're so good at
I had 2 NICU nurses that were godsends, and I'm still friends with them to this day and chat with them.
That's great.
Would not have made it through the NICU without those 2 particular nurses.
Yes.
Chelsea, you had bad mastitis, right? What was that? Because Chelsea, how you breastfed for, I know you.
Like 8 weeks.
8? Okay, you did 8 weeks. Yeah, that's.
And it was really, 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 really hard.
Really
and
hard.
I think I just like Julie, when I decided I was just in such a better spot whenever I decided it was okay for formula. It was okay. And I thought
absolutely.
I thought it was going to change my bond with James, but it didn't. Everything was, it's so much to go through.
It is. And I know that there are courses out there that like we've all watched and talked to lactation consultants and stuff, but breastfeeding appears to be so easy, right? You just
it's not
the latches and then there you go. You can just feed on demand, right? But no one talks about nipple shields or things that you might need in order to help with that nursing and how much harder that makes it. I wish Bailey, I know that she used a nipple shield.
I did too. And so that was really helpful to have them, and it helped it make it more comfortable and everything. And I don't think I think the issue that gave me was that I had to have a clean nipple shield with me everywhere.
On top of healing and recovering and all of that. Yep.
So that's why it was just an undesirable, avenue for me.
Absolutely. I had to use one with Ronan, but didn't have to with Locke. So it's crazy how like
Does
your
that
body.
have to do with your latch?
Yeah. Ronan, I used one for 17 months.
Wow.
So, yeah. But doing all of that while you're recovering too, like making sure you have that thing that you need when you can't just whip that boob out.
Right.
Is hard.
It is really hard, but it's an option too. So I think if I was in a better mental space, probably I could continue with that, but it was just taking on all the new and feeling like you're failing.
On top of being so sleep deprived too.
Right. Yeah.
That I think is something else. Like people say, oh, you're never going to sleep again. But like the effects, no one talks about the effects that lack of sleep has on your body and on your mind. And that's, I think, what needs to be talked about. We all know babies don't sleep 12 hours a night coming out of the vagina or the belly or wherever they are. You know what I mean? Like, but how is that going to make mom feel? How is that going to make dad feel? Like even though they didn't.
I wish that instead of, we joke about people at the end of your pregnancy saying like, oh, better get your sleep now. Oh, you're never going to sleep again. I wish that if people were gonna, get in your business about that stuff, I wish it was like, you're about to be bleeding for the next 6 weeks. Like, am I the only person that didn't realize that you I bled for 6 weeks after?
I feel like I'm still bleeding.
I mean,
I think what happens is people are afraid to make you feel afraid. And so they just leave it out. And I've always thought you need to just say what your real experience is, because what is scary and lonely is thinking that you're the only one that's like this.
So good.
Retweet.
So good, Emily.
That's a really good way to put it, because I definitely, you feel like it's out of left field. Like, whoa, I mean, But the thing is, nobody holds back on saying, oh, that's a watermelon that has to come out a hole that's the size of, like people don't have any issues talking about, oh, you better get an epidural. Oh, think about in the movies and TV shows, like how scary they make labor and delivery seem. You've got these women like screaming and grabbing at the sheets or yelling at their husbands.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying delivery was easy, but the adrenaline I felt, and I don't know if anybody else can attest to this, like the adrenaline you feel is so, you get through it. Like it's not near as bad as the TV and movies make it seem. What they need to show is 6 weeks. They need to show a C-section mom like trying to breastfeed and hold a baby that's, you just had major surgery. And then I think about like Julie, like you with your second, you were recovering from a C-section with a newborn and a toddler. Like how on earth, I mean, it's just we need more, we need to advocate more for.
Well, there needs to be more of that, like what reality is of having a baby. Like, binge watching a certain show on Netflix. One of the women on there just had a baby, and they made it appear as if like 2 weeks later after having baby, she's flat bellied and out doing yoga.
I watched that episode last night. I was pissed.
That sets such a horrible standard for the rest of us who are then looking at our bodies going, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, one, it's a TV show, but most likely for the first 6 to 8 weeks, she would probably not have been medically cleared to film, right?
Exactly.
Because so, I think they just sort of were like, okay, we're going to make it was like a couple of weeks and now she's back. But I mean, you don't rehire, like you're not hiring a replacement employee for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, so I think, that timeline was all messed up, but it certainly sets this expectation that your body is going to look the same as it did pre-pregnancy. And like, that's just not accurate. My body is never going to look the way that it looked pre-pregnancy again. And that's okay. It is what it is, but it's just to like be kind to yourself, and really like comparison is like the thief of joy. My grandma used to always say like comparison is odious, and it's because it makes you feel a certain way about yourself and it's unnecessary. We're all sort of in it together postpartum because all our babies were born at the same time, but all of us had a completely different experience from one another. And even the experience that I have from baby 1, baby 2, and baby 3, all of it has been different every time. And, no baby is the same, but no postpartum experience is the same either.
No. That's so true.
I think the one thing that's, we all can agree on is, you're going to go through some sort of some of us might have had, okay, this was easy for me, but this wasn't. So I think we all definitely went through, whether it was more physical pain, mental pain. I mean, I don't know that anyone would readily admit, a week after giving birth, I feel 100% physically great, mentally great. Some people might feel it worse physically. Some people might feel it worse mentally. I feel like I had a decent like delivery experience, but the after was
it's all a whirlwind.
The after is, for me, I still find it hard, if I'm honest, just because I think, especially because of the pandemic, like the ability to get out and to see people and have your village that comes and takes care of you and takes care of your babies with you was really different, because people couldn't really come here at that time. Like our city was in a lockdown most of last year, so normally my parents and my in-laws are super involved, and they're coming over and they're helping with babies, and that gives me time to go and do a sitz bath for 15 minutes in the bathroom, and especially because we had 3 kids here, even if my spouse is helping me, like he only has 2 arms and we've got 3 kids. So
Outnumbered.
it's kind of all hands on deck at all times. But
Right.
when he went back to work, and it was the boys and me here, especially when the school was closed, like just forget about it. Every day was survival day. And I think not having the time to sort of take care of myself really impacted this recovery.
Absolutely. That makes sense. This pandemic really threw a wrench in like everyone's like ability to recover the way that they wanted to, I think, and with who they wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Mara, it was just her and her husband, and it's their first baby. So, and then Paul and I had, Paul's mom was pretty much the only one the first month or two, in the very beginning, because she was retired and able to quarantine. But that's a good point. When you don't have your village of people to come and help and say, go take a shower or go take a nap.
Right.
I wasn't ready to let that go. I was still trying to be, you guys know me, I'm super mom and I want to be able to do everything and I don't like to ask for help. And so I had a couple breakdowns because of that. Oh, and then the breastfeeding thing, and everybody has an opinion, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody has an opinion.
Everybody has an opinion. And sometimes it's like, maybe just keep your opinion to yourself and just share something that is positive for a new mom, or, even an elder mom.
Yeah.
Just be supportive, because
even just telling mom, like, hey, you did a good job.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just hearing that is so helpful.
Yeah. And just checking in. I mean, I think what happened, I mean, for me, and I think for a lot of us with the pontoon, was like the pontoon became the check-in. Have you done your Kegels today? Are you drinking water? Mental health check-in. Like, we were doing those things every day. But, it was like a little bit of a replacement for what maybe is absent in your life because of the pandemic. Or maybe not.
I can't imagine not having just someone, to check in. A girl I went to high school with just had her first baby a couple days ago. And we're not super close, but, I know her. And I sent her a message on Instagram and, was just like, I know what you're going through right now. Like, if you need anything, message me. I don't care what time it is, even if it's just to vent or to say, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, that kind of thing. But it doesn't feel like everyone needs, anytime I see that someone just had a baby, I just feel like my mind just immediately is like, oh, I just want to give that person a hug.
Yeah.
I first couple of weeks, you don't want to scare them, but
I like to check in with people and I'll do that. Like,
you're really good about that.
I try, but I try to do it after, because everybody catered or checked on me right after the baby.
Right.
But like months after, nobody checked on, and that dwindles. And that's when I think everything starts to set in. So
right.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder. You love hearing that you're doing a good job, so I tell them.
When did you guys feel like you were, like, in terms of like physical and mental recovery, and kind of like, okay, I'm getting the swing of things? I know for Emily and Amelia, it's probably different because this was not your first child, so might have taken a little longer in terms of like, your new family dynamic. Like, what was that like in terms of when you're like, okay, I got this. My body is feeling decent. My mind, this is starting to feel like the new normal.
Mm-hmm. For me, it was right around that 6-week mark. That's when I went back to teaching classes again. So from 6 weeks of like hardly any movement to back to teaching classes. And it felt good to move my body again like that.
Right.
Mentally, like, I feel like I'm still sometimes stuck in that cloud of like, we're still in that, just roughly within that first year of everything. So there's still a little bit of that, but I think by that point I felt less like anxious about being home with the baby and remote learning with Ronan and Chell.
Yeah,
Not
both of you guys did that.
so I feel like right around 6 weeks, I was like, okay, I can be Chelsea. I can be super mom. I can do all of this. You know what I mean? But I was lying to myself. I can't do it all. Like, I think that's another thing that people don't think about postpartum is you can ask for help and you shouldn't pay to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
I don't think I'm there, to be honest. I think
I was just thinking, are you ever
think,
actually there? Probably, maybe not.
I think you do get into sort of like a groove, and it sort of, you know, it sort of becomes like old hat, you know, and you kind of have seen all the different stages that you're going to see, and things get easier. And I don't think we're quite there yet. Like, going from one child to two children, I found really easy. For me, it was really easy. And I think a big thing was that, you know, V was such a great sleeper, and he was a great eater, and he was like just this little chill dude. And, you know, because of our age gap, you know, the boys are almost 4 years, like 3.5 years apart. It just was like, I can do this. And the balance was immediately there. I think going from 2 to 3, you know, Vi's not a great sleeper. We had a lot of weight gain issues. You know, I think all of those things really mentally for me, especially, was really hard. And, you know, you guys know, but anyone who's listening probably doesn't know, like, I've struggled with mental health issues basically my whole adult life. And I do take medication to sort of maintain that balance. And right now I'm on sort of a higher dose than what I would normally take. And, you know, for the immediate future, there's no plan to decrease that medication, because I still need it. Like, I'm still not there yet. And certainly, like, emotionally, physically, I'm nowhere near where I was after Victor. Christian, I had a hard time, but it's much slower this time. And that's okay, because I know I've done it before and I'll get there again, but it's much harder. And again, like, I think, you know, the pandemic is a huge part of that, because a lot of the time, you know, with the lockdowns, we were inside. It was harder to go outside. It's harder to go outside with 3 kids, and everybody has to, you know, is encouraged to wear a mask even outside, you know, and it just made it easier to not go for walks. You know, we would just play in the backyard, or we'd play in the front yard. But it made for like a more sedentary life. Yeah, I think, like, I'm hoping that I get there soon. I'm also still on maternity leave. So I think also when I go back to work and you get into like more of a routine that it also is about you, I find that really helpful, because work for me is very rewarding. I love being a mom. Like, I love my kids so much, but I do get a lot of value out of my work, and being at work and in the office where I feel like I'm contributing something, you know, to a team of people, you know. And right now I don't really have that
mom for a little while, and you get to be like, okay, this is me in this role, and I don't need to be everything to 3 little humans right now.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, exactly. When I go to work, I'm Emily, the policy analyst. You know, people ask me my opinion. I have these like amazing policy chats, and that you know, I love it. I like talking about Monopoly and Legos too, but sometimes it's fun to talk about things that are like my passion, are, you know, Indigenous, you know, issues Indigenous people face. Like, all these things are things that I like to talk about. And, you know, my kids aren't quite there yet on those topics.
That's so true about, like, you know, wanting to feel kind of like your pre-pregnancy self. Like, I remember an afternoon, because y'all know I was unemployed my entire pregnancy because I got furloughed because of COVID the week that I found out I was pregnant. And I remember just like standing in the nursery, like holding Amelia, and I was like in a baggy pajama shirt that had like spit up all over it. My hair was like messy bun, hadn't been washed probably in I don't know how long. And I like, there was like a mirror in her nursery, and I like looked in the mirror and I was just like I love my baby so much, but I was like, I am literally just, I feel like I'm only a mom right now. Like I don't feel like I'm,
yeah.
Yes, I don't feel like I'm a wife. I don't feel like I'm a friend. I don't feel like I'm an employee. You know, I've always loved working. I've always been like a very career goal-oriented person. So yeah, going back to work was like, but then of course, you know, you get that mom guilt and you're like, am I missing out? Am I, it's just all so hard.
I think the one thing, you know, the pandemic took a lot from a lot of people. But I think the one thing it gave our family was that, you know, my husband was working from home. And so like he would go up and he would be in the office, but like at lunchtime, he would come down and he could play with the kids and he could be with them. And, you know, that was something we haven't had, you know, during my other maternity leave because he was in the office working, you know, away from the house. So it was sort of nice that we had that sort of family time every day together. That wasn't just sort of right before the kids are going to bed or like first thing in the morning. And he is amazing, like sleep. So after Christian was born, like the doctor was like, Emily needs to get at least 4 hours of sleep every night consecutive for my mental health. And he really made that a priority. So, you know, he would get up in the morning, like with Christian and Victor, it was often very early, like 4 or 5 in the morning, he would get up and take care of them so that I could get that 4 hours of sleep. And he's done that every single time. So, I mean, even now, like, you know, Vi sometimes sleeps through, but often she's up like once or twice even now. So in the mornings, like I know I don't feel any pressure to like get up and turn on and be like mom, you know what I mean? I get that little bit of time. And I think especially like in the early months, those first like postpartum months when you're really like, I have to take care of my stitches and I need to put cream on the cracked nipples. And, you know, I knew that I had time in the morning to make sure. Yes, exactly.
Time to change my own diaper. Yep.
Yeah. And then
what
I think
else
too,
is
like,
there? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, well, I was just thinking about what we were talking about in the chat before about sort of like mourning that life that you had before you had kids. And like even the change in your life from going from 1 to 2 kids or from 2 to 3 kids, like every time you do that, that's like a huge transition for you as a mom and for your family.
Yep, completely. We had a hard time with that transition because Ronan was 9 when Lachlan was born. So we had that 9-year span of, okay, he isn't in diapers. He can tie his own shoes. He's pretty self-sufficient. Like we can give him things to do and he does them when he wants to. But he can follow directions. And so going from that to all the way back to the beginning again was a really big transition. Gone were the, let's go to breakfast.
Yeah, quickly. He can communicate.
So it was really hard, but I can't imagine going from 2 to 3 with only having 2 hands.
Yeah.
My grandma
a lot of the time it's okay. Yeah. I mean, like Christian and Ronan are very close in age. So, you know, he's going to be turning 9. So he is such a help. Like when he's home, you know, when they're not in school, like sometimes they have school in person and sometimes they're at home. But, you know, when he's home, like he wants to help. He wants to be able to help. And he is very helpful. Like he'll get them snacks and he can get his own snacks, and he's pretty like hands off. He just wants to chat with you and interact with you, and you know, he's such a joy. He's so fun.
Did he check in with you? Ronan still does that. Like he'll come up and be like, "How you doing, Mom? You doing okay?" Like
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of like checking in with you,
Yeah.
and they're like, "You need anything?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good,
Yeah.
buddy. Need some water? Can I fill your water up for you?" No.
That's cute.
The older
That's
kids
cute.
make me want another one.
I know.
Yeah.
That's
Just space it out so that way that older child is old enough to
help.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
Taking
I liked the
over.
gap for postpartum too, right? Like, you know, I know some people prefer like a closer age gap, but I don't think physically or mentally I could have done it any sooner. Like,
Me either.
4 years was perfect for me.
Mm-hmm.
So are they all three kids 4 years apart?
Pretty much, yeah. Christian and Victor are like 3.5, and then Victor and Vi are like almost exactly 4, because she's like mid-November and he's end of November.
Wow. So what about, like, I don't know if this is something we want to touch on, but postpartum periods, like that first
Yeah.
period that comes back after you have baby, right?
Yeah, get those diapers out again.
What did
I think-
That's all I
Alyssa
can
say?
say.
I think I blocked that out.
Alyssa said, my body's pissed that I'm not pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 Well, see,
Yeah.
Get mine
Mine
So
faked-
angry.
mine faked me out a couple times. It was like, I think we've talked about, like, I was not expecting to bleed. I think I bled 6 weeks postpartum.
I definitely did
Yeah.
10 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mine was
See,
very long.
but it would ebb and flow. It would, like, after 6 weeks, it would, like, I would spot for a bit and I'd be like, oh, is this it? Is this my period back? And it was like, no. I don't even remember how long.
But once it's back, you know,
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
you know.
questioning, like, is this my period or am I just spotting? So,
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the boys' line came back basically 2 weeks after my postpartum bleeding stopped. My periods came back. And then this time, like, I'm literally having my first one now.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
been like 12 months.
Wow. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
mine was 12 months. And that was crazy to me that I was like, it's been almost 2 years since I've had a period. Like that was
Yeah.
strange.
I was hoping for menopause, but that wasn't.
Not yet.
no such luck.
Yeah.
But that's the
No.
thing too. I was getting lochia and I thought that was my period. And then, so nobody tells you about lochia either. And like the smell, and it's just so gross.
Yes.
So gross. After it stopped smelling, I knew it was my period.
See, I love you.
It was so gross.
All
Did
right.
we talk
I'm
about-
gonna have to jump off in a minute. Sorry.
You're
I
good.
have a few minutes too. So
I do too. I was just the one last thing I was gonna touch on was, I don't know if any of us experienced the BO and or the postpartum sweats.
yeah.
Oh, I had the sweats.
I didn't have the BO, but the sweats was like, oh my God. And I would wake up like to feed and it was just like, I'm drenched in sweat and you feel gross, like putting your baby on like your sweaty, like, boot. And it was just,
It's like when you take the t-shirt and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna clean up real quick before I like bring you in.
Yeah.
that was something I was not expecting. I don't think I knew that postpartum sweats was a thing. And I don't remember how long it lasted, but it was definitely a few weeks.
Couple months.
Yeah.
Especially as
Months,
it's
yeah.
leaving your body and regulating and all of that with
Yeah.
nursing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still sleep in a tank top.
Yeah.
I don't get like super like sweaty wet, but I just get really hot,
Yeah.
and I'm still getting really hot. I don't know.
right. You're just like, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Yeah.
That's
I
a
don't
big
need any of this
postpartum.
duvet.
Right. Can I get a fan, please?
We have a fan. In the summer we had 2.
Oh my gosh.
In Canada.
I have the ceiling fan and then like a standing fan.
I'm a big fan of fans. Haha, see what I did there? But Paul hates it. And I'm always like, look, I birthed your child. I'm blowing this fan on me, okay?
You have no say, sir.
You did this
Yeah.
to me. You did
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think we
That was good.
covered some good stuff.
Yeah. I'm glad that we have each other to talk to about all of this.
Me
And I
too.
really hope
Me
that
too.
other people can become a part of our pontoon and have that support that we had with each other. Because I think it's really
Absolutely.
important to be able to go in unfiltered to a group of people that you trust and get answers that might not be the ones you want, but are things that you maybe need to hear, or at least know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And say, hey, is this normal? And not
Yeah.
feel embarrassed to.
Or also for someone to say, like, going back to the mental health aspect of it, like I know a couple of the girls in the group, all it took was a conversation of somebody saying, I made the decision to go on medication, for them to go, you know what, I need to consider that for myself.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a bigger topic for another day too.
Yeah.
That we
Yeah.
talk on
For
here.
sure.
And yeah, that.
But I think that was paramount for a lot of women in our group.
Yeah. Agreed.
So you don't have to muscle through it.
No.
Yeah.
Don't be super mom.
No.
Well, you're all super moms, but
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, pontoon.
All right.
All right.
Enjoy your Tuesday, guys.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
It's
Bye.